everyone, welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ, and we are doing this series for OmniStudio Developer Certification. And in this series today we will be focusing on completing this module, that is OmniStudio Integration Procedures. So in our last video we talked about OmniStudio Data Raptors, and we discussed how it worked, how it is beneficial, and what its designer look like. Similarly, now today we will be focusing on integration procedure. So let's get started. In this we will be talking about what integration procedure is, how it is linked to data raptors, why is it more advantageous than the apex calls, and how its designer look like, and in what scenarios we should use which one and how to use it. So we will start with our first unit, that is get started with OmniStudio integration procedures. So as you are aware, in our OmniStudio architecture module we have talked about that in OmniStudio service management layer, one component is data raptors and one is integration procedure. So data raptor we have already discussed. So now let's talk about integration procedures. So integration procedure, what it is, it actually helps to read and write data from Salesforce and from external systems. So integration procedure and data raptors usually work hand in hand. We have earlier discussed briefly how it works, that in the unit of OmniScript, that if we are passing any variable, or if we are doing any action on OmniScript, that we are using data source as integration procedures, and in integration procedure we are having data source for data raptors, which will be getting which will be getting data from Salesforce or third party and saving it to the Salesforce or third party system. So what are the advantages of it? It is declarative, that is it uses drag and drop approach, and it is server side processing, so it is much faster in performance rather than other uh, tools we have. It is faster than the client processing data, and we can perform multiple action in a single server call. So multiple action in a single server call I will show you in next unit of this module. If we try to understand how integration procedure handle multiple data sources, so it can read data from Salesforce org as well using data raptors. It can get data from APIs as well using HTTP actions, and it can get data using Apex classes as well using remote action. So we can serve as data sources from multiple technologies as well. The way we get the data from Salesforce or any other sources, we can save the data to those sources as well. So using response action we can save the data to Salesforce or OmniScript and FlexCard, and then using data raptor post action we can save it to Salesforce, and using delete action we can delete any record in the Salesforce. Using HTTP action we can save the updated data in APIs. Using email action we can send email, or if we do have any DocuSign where we want to update the data, we can use a DocuSign envelope action as well. So these are portable means it can be reused in similar manner to flex cards. We can use it, or we can reuse it in any other flex card or in an OmniScript. And yeah, it also helps us to trim the data, so we might be receiving extra data when we get or fetch the data from org or any third party, but we can trim it and send the only relevant data. So if you remember earlier we discussed send JSON path, send JSON node. So in send JSON path we can mention what only nodes data, or what elements data we want to pass, and in send JSON node we can specify or relabel the node that we have already discussed in our previous unit. So let's move on. It can also perform batch processing, means large amount of data it can process at a time. So that is clear. Now if we take a look at time wise that how it is more efficient than Apex classes. So if we do have any easy functionality to work upon in Apex class, we might take 2 to 3 hours to build an Apex class, but in integration procedure it will take 30 minutes, and it reduces our effort by 75%. And similarly, if we talk about difficult functionality, then Apex classes takes about 6 weeks or so, but in integration procedure we can complete it within a day, and it reduce our effort by 97%. So that's very impressive. So that's why drag and drop or configurational approach we are following more in OmniStudio rather than code based. So let's come to the quiz. Our first question is, what can integration procedures do? So first option is send and receive the data we need. Yes. Directly interact with the user. No. Third is perform batch processing. Yes. So A and C are the correct answers. Let's move on to the second question. Compared to Apex classes, integration procedures are what? First is easier to maintain. Second option is difficult to update. Third is less time consuming to develop. So A and C are the correct answer. Let's check. So yes, this is completed. Let's move on to the next unit. Next unit is explore the integration procedure designer. We'll be talking more about its designer. So we can access it by typing integration procedure in the app launcher directly. And this is how it looks like, this first image. We will be having available components section. In this we do have two types of elements. First are group elements, which contains cache block, conditional block, loop block, or try catch block. And second is actions elements, which is also consisting of many other elements. We will talk more about it in detail in this unit only. And then in structure element, we have whatever actions we are using to create an integration procedure, we can drag drop from available components to here. And then in properties, each action which is present in structure panel, we can update it here. We can give its name, we can map it to data wrapper interface, select its JSON path, and such things. And then obviously we can preview any data raptor or total integration procedure total integration procedure functionality as well by giving input parameters and so. And we do have edit as JSON option as well. In that we can edit this particular action in JSON format if you are comfortable in that and not in this. So yes, this already we have talked about. So let's move on to the groups element in available component panel. We had cache block, so we can save the in outputs which we might be needed multiple times. And then in conditional block, we can specify the condition to run, such as if else. Loop block if we want to iterate over the number of items at a time. And then try cache block if we want to cache the error if any step fails at a time. And we can have nest block within each other as well. We can nest a loop block within try cache or cache block. And then if we talk about actions elements, we do have multiple types of action elements. So I'll give overview just of the important ones. Currently chatter action, you understand that we can have chatter. Then data raptor extract, we can extract data using data raptor, so we can map it uh, here. Then data raptor post to save data to Salesforce. Data raptor transform to third parties. Data raptor turbo to extract data from multiple objects. Delete action if we want to delete any record in Salesforce. DocuSign envelope action if we want to send email after having the signed document. Email action to send an email. Integration procedure action, we can nested integration procedure as well. So if we want to nest any other integration procedure within this, then remote action if we want to access the apex classes. Response action when we want to save data or send data to flex cards or omniscripts. HTTP action if we want to get data from API or to save data to APIs. And set values if we values, as name suggests, if we are saving any values to a variable directly. So yes, let's move on. So let's come to the quiz. First question is, which panel contains all the group and actions elements? So available components panel. Second is, which action tells the integration procedure what data to pass back to the tool that called it? That is response action element. Let's check. So yes, this is completed. Let's move on to the next unit. Our third unit is design simple integration procedure. So this we have already talked about which action to use. Let's go through it once more. If we have data source as flexcard or omniscript, then we use response action. From actions section from available components. If we want from to save data to Salesforce, or then data after post action, which will be data after load. And if we want to delete any Salesforce record, then we use delete action. In case of API, HTTP action. In case of send email, email action. And for DocuSign and template, DocuSign envelope action. So these are scenarios. You will get a better understanding in this case. So which action element to choose if integration procedure is to get account data from Salesforce? So as we are getting data from Salesforce, that is also of one object only, then we use data after turbo action. So that's the correct one. Second is, which integration procedure action element to use when we want to send the data back to the edit account omniscript? So response action. As we just now understood, if we want to send data back to flexcard or omniscript, then response action should be used. Now we want to save account data back to Salesforce, then data after post action. Okay, yes. Now we want to get current weather forecast data from an API. In case of an API, we will use HTTP action. Now if we want to trim and remap weather data, then we use data after transform. If you remember when we talked about in data after unit that what data after transform action do, it helps us to trim or remap the data we get from third parties. So now let's move on to the next. Which action element is to use to send the data back to the weather flex card? So in case of flex card, response action. Yes, so we are now reached the quiz. First question is, in integration procedures, what determines which actions elements you use? So the data source. Based on data source, we are choosing which action elements to use. In case of like API, HTTP action. In case of omniscript, it's response action. So like this. Second question is, which action element allows the integration procedure to get data from a web API? So HTTP action. Let's check. So it is completed. Let's move on to the last unit of this module. Build simple integration procedures. So here we are discussing one scenario, how the data is flowing. So we have an omniscript. We have already discussed this earlier as well, but I'll give an overview again. So we have an omniscript where actions are being performed, and it will get the data and that or record ID, and it will get stored in the name of context ID. Then we are calling integration procedure. And in integration procedure, we do have data after based on if we are saving the record or data back to Salesforce or if we are fetching it. So in integration procedure, it gets passed in the form of account ID. And in data after, if you remember, we did have in the extract tab, as selected object as account, and then we were doing id equals account id, and we said that account id will be a input parameter which will be coming from outside or from integration procedure in this case. So it get passed from omniscript to integration procedure and then to data raptor. So it will match that input account id to the id present in Salesforce and fetch the data and pass it on to the integration procedure. Then it will again pass it on to the omniscript and it will show the data to user. And in case of if we want to save the record or data to Salesforce, it will work in the same manner. We will have updated JSON from omniscript, then it will get passed on to the integration procedure, then using data raptor load it will get saved to the Salesforce. Yes, so this we have talked about, and we said that we are dragging and drop actions to from available components to the structure. Then we are changing the properties or editing the properties. In this field, element name is, you can understand it as a label of our action in integration procedure. Dr is a representation of data raptor and then the name that we are getting account details. And in data raptor interface, whatever data raptor we have created to get the account details, we will map it over here, and then based on what parameters it will be fetching, and that data source is account id which is coming from omniscript as we have talked. Then in response action we are sending the data back to omniscript using integration procedure. So whose data we want to send back, which we just got from Salesforce in this dr get account details. So we will have this value or have this name in send JSON path. If in case you want to send a particular node, then we can have the relabel of that node here. But currently we want to send the whole data of that JSON of this particular element, so we will send its name in send JSON path field, and then we will have the data. We can preview it omniscript as well. Yes, so yeah, and similarly we are doing it to save the data as well. You can see we have data raptor save account detail. We drag and drop data raptor post action. In this case it mapped to the data raptor load which we had created earlier in data raptor unit. And yeah, and then we can work it in the same manner. So let's come to the quiz. First question is, which action element ends an integration procedure and returns data to the entity that called it? Response action. Second question is, which action element in the integration procedure calls the data raptor load, data raptor post action? So yes, let's check. So congratulations, we have completed this unit as well, that is OmniStudio integration procedures. And if you have any doubts or comments, please let me know in the comment section. And in our this series we will be focusing on next unit, that is OmniStudio data tools and internal data, in our next video. Thank you, stay tuned.